Here's my report on round 11 of the 2026 Candidates Tournament. So in this video, I'm going to be looking at all 4 games from round 11, just taking a little extract from each one. Now, let's take a look at the standings as we go into this round. So you can see out in front, Jawakhir Sindarov, the 20-year-old from Uzbekistan with 8 points. Now he's 2 points clear of Anish Giri. Realistically, Giri is the only one that can possibly catch Sindarov. So, of course, those games are very important for them today. Sindarov had a tough one. Black against Caruana. Giri had white against Yesipenko. As we can see, Yesipenko is at the bottom of the tournament table with 3.5. So this was a good chance for Giri to try and gain some ground. And the other games, we had Nakamura against Wei Yi and Pragg white against Bluebaum. So let's dive in and take a look at the games from round 11. First up, let's take a look at the game between Nakamura and Wei Yi. So we join the game after 13 moves, typical Catalan position where white has this nice pawn chain and of course controls the centre to some extent, but black has nice activity with his pieces. Wei Yi played h6, exchange on f6. Now can you get that bishop working? You've got to try and break down that pawn on d4. Knight d2 from Nakamura. Rook came over, knight b4, yes, beautiful position for the knight, which was secured with a5. Knight b3 from Nakamura, hitting the bishop. Rook c1, knight d3, hitting the rook, rook back. Oh yes, you can see what's happening. It's a repetition, and there the draw was agreed. Nakamura said afterwards, if I had a chance to win the tournament, I would never make a repetition. But, I mean, this was a very quick game, and Nakamura obviously has just lost all ambition in this tournament. I think he lost it a long time ago. And basically, if white wants something, you can win a pawn temporarily like this. Black is really well coordinated though, because very nice pressure on the A file. You can perhaps look at playing b5. Watch out for the pressure here as well. This is decent compensation for black. And Nakamura said, well, I'm playing against Stockfish. Wei Yi had obviously prepared it, and he didn't want that. So, draw. There we go. Let's move on. Let's move on to a much more interesting game. Praggnanandhaa against Bluebaum. Now, this was a Petrov, but Pragg managed to stir up trouble. And in this position, white to play, well, Pragg has gone all in. You can see that Bluebaum has 2 extra pawns, but Pragg's piece is very active, and this queen is quite offside. Right, I think we need to have a think and drink moment here. So, how do you play with white in this position? White to play. This is very nice. See you in a moment. Do you want to improve your chess? Get access to live masterclasses with yours truly? Then subscribe to patreon.com/PowerPlayChess, and for just $25 a month, you get a newsletter with a test game, calculation puzzles, a monthly opening survey, access to an archive with over 100 opening surveys. And you can join in live masterclasses exclusive to patrons, where you can ask me questions directly over Zoom. All for only $25 per month. Do subscribe to patreon.com/PowerPlayChess and join the club. Pragg played Queen f3. Threatening mate. Well, Queen f7 and Queen g7 will be mate. Bluebaum found an unbelievable defence here. So how does black defend? So first of all, d4, so that if queen takes, of course, you can zip back with the queen and exchange queens. But knight takes f7. I mean, it looks like black's kingside is collapsing. For example, if pawn takes pawn, then queen h5 and queen h8 mate. So rook f8, knight h6 check has to be taken, and then queen e4. This looks absolutely deadly. Mate threatened. And what do you do? And if rook f7, then queen g6, take a pawn. Well, for example, this leads to mate. And there. Okay, let's come back. But what had Bluebaum spotted here? Brilliant defense. Bishop d3. Fantastic idea. So obviously covers these two squares. And if queen takes bishop, queen b8, check. And then you take the rook. So Pragg had to play queen e5, threatening mate. Then rook f7, rook a8 check, and it's just a draw. That's how the game ended. Very interesting. Brilliant defense. But let's come back here. In fact, there was a beautiful win for white. I suspect that Pragg had just thought queen f3 was winning. I mean, I could be wrong. And so he didn't look any further for anything else. But rook takes f7 is a winning move. Okay, so queen g5 and queen takes g7 threatened. What about rook takes e5? And if queen takes, then king takes rook. Well, in this position, queen a7 is a winning move, and there's nothing that black can do to stop the major pieces sweeping across the 7th rank, and mate follows shortly. So for example, bishop d3, well, that covers the h7, but then the rook comes back, and then we've got two different mates threatened. Wow, that would have been absolutely decisive. There's no decent defense there. If you spotted rook f7 and queen a7, well done. So anyway, the game ended in a draw at this point. Now, what was happening to the tournament leader? Caruana white against Sindarov. So this is the position after 40 moves. Caruana has transferred his king across to the queen side. Basically, he wants to support that pawn and push through. The knight is a very nice blockader of that pawn. I mean, it is level material, but basically that knight looks better than the bishop, which does support that pawn, but isn't doing much else. Black's king, well, it's hard to say whether it's a good piece or a bad piece. At the moment, it's not doing much. But first things first, you know, this advance with the king is pretty serious. So Sindarov is under pressure here, but he found an excellent move. Rook b7. So first of all, that threatens rook b3 check. Also prevents the king coming forward. So knight b5. King g5. So Sindarov starts to use his king actively. He's looking to come down here. Rook c5. So that guards the knight, and then he'll be able to push the pawn. King f4. So Sindarov finding counterplay. a5. The pawn rushing down the board. The king rushing down the board. a6 hits the rook. a7. One more square and it's a queen, but rook a6 check. King b4. Now, very important moment in the game. Black is still on the edge of a cliff. How would you play here? I mean, if you want to pause the video and have a little think about what you do, black to play. We won't have a think and drink moment, but I'll have a drink anyway. Cheers. Well, if you grab that pawn, it's a massive mistake. The knight jumps back, check, and then rook a5, And basically black has to give up the rook because the knight covers the d5 square, so the bishop can't stop the pawn. So what did Sindarov find? Well, he found this move, bishop e8. Excellent move. So he wants to take the knight and take the pawn on a7. And if rook c8, then this is just going to end in a draw with this clever move, c3. So if king c3, then black takes lots of pawns. And if king takes b5, then this is going to end in a draw. And yeah, it'll be a draw basically because the black threatens to push the c pawn. But you just check the king away and this will end in a draw basically. So bishop e8, excellent defense. And the game ended like this, rook c7, so that's to guard the a pawn. King takes pawn, the knight came back. Rook takes pawn, and now there's a mass liquidation basically. Rook takes bishop, there's nothing better. And Sindarov managed to eliminate Caruana's final pawn. So they're going to be left with rook and knight against rook. Of course, it's possible for white to move the knight over and take the pawn, but basically Caruana couldn't be bothered to try to checkmate with rook and knight against rook. It's much easier to defend than rook and bishop against rook. So he just offered an exchange, and they agreed to draw here. So Sindarov survived that one. He said after the game, the position is very hard. I was pleased to show my defensive skills. You know, that's not normally the kind of chess that Sindarov likes to play. As we've seen, he's very dynamic. But clearly, you know, when it counts, then he could hold the draw there. There was a lot of calculation involved in that save. And, well, you need calculation for good attacking play, but also in the endgame when you're defending as well. So, yeah, he's got that skill. Right, final game. So that was a draw. So could Giri defeat Yesipenko and just move a little closer to Sindarov? Well, Giri with white against Yesipenko. And Giri has a very pleasant advantage with white. You can see it's an isolated pawn. The queens are off the board, so no attacking chances for black. The dark square bishops have been exchanged, so we're left with this typical good knight against bad bishop. That bishop blocked by the d pawn. All the pieces are on the board. Well, I say all the pieces. Not all the pieces are on the board, but a lot of pieces are on the board. If black could exchange all the rooks here, then I don't think black would have any problems. But not so simple to exchange off all the rooks at the moment. In any case, Giri played in typical fashion, g4, gaining space on the king side. To win this kind of position, you need to basically create two weaknesses. So we have one weakness here, but now it's important to gain territory on the king side. So Yesipenko, well, he's a good technical player. He understands he needs to block. g5. h4, right. So Giri can open a file if necessary, or if it's desirable, he has the option. Yesipenko exchanges knights, and now Giri decides, okay, I want to keep rooks on the board. Rook d1. You can see how useful that knight is on d4, prevents the rook's entry here. So it's still this very typical good knight against bad bishop position. Rook h8. Yesipenko just defends the h-file so there's no incursion with this rook. King g3, steady advance. Knight c6. Good move from Yesipenko because that knight is such a strong piece. If you can exchange it off, then black has achieved something. This is a big moment in the game. Giri decided to exchange off the bishop and go for f4. But as we'll see, it didn't amount to much. Could have played f4 straight away, and this gives white more chances. So you can imagine, an exchange here. Now, rook, maybe he didn't like this, that perhaps he thought there was perhaps too much pressure here. In fact, black's king comes under fire. h5. Well, it's tricky, but this would be a better chance. But after knight takes bishop, well, it kind of fizzled. After this move, an exchange, and the knight came over. And I mean, this minor piece is just as good as the bishop in this position. An exchange, e4. So, yeah, I mean, Giri would like to get this bishop into the game and break down black's center. Fair enough, but with all the pawn exchanges, then really it's getting closer to a draw. So this is how things ended, and a solid transfer of the knight to d6, covering the pawn, looking at some very useful squares. And basically white is getting absolutely nowhere. So this is move 43, and the players agreed to a draw here. So no progress from Giri in that position, but he did have chances. I think these kind of technical positions are very difficult because you can go down different routes, and it's so hard to judge which one is going to give you the better chances. It's not like you're winning a pawn or winning a piece. White has some initiative here, but which way is the best way? It's very hard to determine until you get into the position. Then you start to discover the benefits or the problems. So there we go. That one ended in a draw. So all four games ended in a draw. So let's just take a look at the standings after round 11. So we can see Sindarov in first position with 8.5, Giri 6.5, Caruana 5.5. Still really a two-horse race, but it looks like Sindarov is streaking out into the distance. Just 3 rounds remaining. Let's just take a look at the pairings. So round 12 pairings, Sindarov has white against Nakamura. Nakamura, when Nakamura was asked what did he think about the game and what might happen, he said, solid. I mean, basically, if Sindarov draws, he's almost home. So yeah, I imagine Sindarov will be playing very solidly there. Giri has black against Wei Yi. I think that might be solid as well. And then round 13 is potentially a big one. Giri against Sindarov. Well, around 14 we have Sindarov against Wei Yi, Giri black against Bluebaum. But okay, first things first. Round 12, Sindarov white against Nakamura and Wei Yi against Giri. Those are the big games. But it's looking like Sindarov is just strolling home by this stage.